The black expanse of space outside the council chamber's great viewport gleamed with distant stars cold, indifferent witnesses to the dying art of diplomacy. Inside, the Astra Coalition's High Council convened in uneasy silence. At the center of the chamber hovered a crystalline lectern, refracting hologlyphs that shifted between dozens of languages and planetary codes. 7 delegates, each in ceremonial regalia, stood in a semicircle, their expressions courteous but taut from the opulent balconies above. Observers of the lesser voting houses murmured among themselves. A contingent from the Valorian archives whispered excitedly over the coalition's strategy to annex the mineral-rich moons of Sorelia. Meanwhile, the envoy from the mercantile house of Syrinx tapped gold-filigreed fingers on the polished floor, calculating the profit margins of every clause. A soft chime interrupted the murmurs. The central hologram flickered, and the council's president, a tall, silver-haired woman named Ellerin Voss, leaned forward. "Report," she commanded. The lectern's controls glowed. "A vessel of unknown origin has appeared at the edge of Coalition space. It neither broadcast identification nor complied with request hails. It entered the detached sector surrounding Lyra Prime 43 minutes ago." A ripple passed through the assembly. Unannounced arrivals were rare. Hostile incursions nearly unheard of in the Coalition's 500-year history. Voss lifted a slender eyebrow. "Open a channel," she said. A whisper of static, then a voice clear, resolute, and human filled the chamber. "I am Captain Arun Mia of the Starcraft. Odysseys Hope. I demand immediate audience with the High Council." The council members exchanged cautious glances. The Valorian delegate cleared his throat. "A single human ship, uninvited. Resistance is not." "I am not here to be resisted," the voice replied. "I am here to speak truth." The hologram shimmered, resolving into a weathered woman's face, cropped black hair, an angular jaw dusted with exhaustion, amber eyes blazing with purpose. "On Earth, we have faced annihilation. We have watched oceans boil and cities crumble under the weight of your containment policies. Species you claim to protect languish in cages of your making." A murmur of protest rose among the delegates. The mercantile envoy bared her teeth. "Human war propaganda," she spat. "They fled their star to escape our suspicion. They did not flee," Arun's voice cut in. "They survived." The chamber fell silent again, the weight of that small correction settling like ash. "I have data you refuse to see. Humanity offers peace, but you deal in oppression. You want war? Then watch your worlds burn." A massive hollow projection spun to life behind her. The image of Earth, once blue and green, now a pallid orb ringed by storms of fire, smoke curling into space from scorched continents. Around it, tiny glowing dots marked the positions of Coalition strongholds, research stations, listening posts, refugee holding camps. There were hundreds of them, all bathed in the sickly orange glow of thermonuclear strikes. The silver-haired president's hand quivered over her console. This cannot be real." Arun's face hardened. "It is. You call these outposts rehabilitation centers, but those are fates worse than death. Species extinguished in the name of stability. Worlds shuttered behind quarantine. Fields until their cultures wither." She raised her voice. "We gave you every chance, countless delegations, millions of credits in humanitarian aid. But you turned away, preferring the hollow veneer of order." A young delegate from the aquatic world of Pangaea whispered, "They exaggerate." Her tentacled head swayed. "The tensions on Earth were localized. We provided assistance, Arun's." Eyes locked onto hers. "Localized? 4 billion lives lost. Cultures erased. Once proud cities reduced to radioactive ruins." She lifted a clenched fist. "You, every one of you, chose that fate rather than share power. Don't tell me you don't understand the cost." There was a tense stillness as the projection faded. If any delegates still doubted, the tremor in their voices betrayed the depth of their unease. President Vuss finally found her voice. "Captain Mia, what is it that you want?" Arun closed her eyes for a moment, drawing in a steadying breath. "You have 48 hours to dismantle your containment fields, release every detained species, and open your archives to full interstellar inspection. If you refuse, I will initiate Operation Phoenix Dawn." A gust of tense air swept the chamber. "Operation?" Vuss echoed. Arun reached behind her, as if producing an object, a failsafe. The chamber's lights flickered as a low hum began to resonate throughout the halls. A schematic of a small, spherical device appeared, a lattice of unfamiliar alloys and energy conduits. "This is the last of the Elysian doomsday capsules, salvaged from a derelict stronghold. Disable your quarantine grids, or I press this button and every world you hold and every world I once called home will burn." Before the delegations could react, the holoprojector blinked out. The guards moved in, but Arun's form dissolved into brilliant white light. In the aftermath, the chamber's sky-black windows reflected countless horrified faces. The president sank into her seat, voice barely a whisper. "What have we done?" Outside, the distant pulse of human dreadnought engines thrummed across space. The ultimatum had been given. The galaxy would never be the same. The first salvo cut the silent void like a jagged tear. Far from Lyra Prime's glittering spires, the desert world of Arcadios trembled beneath the thunder of human heavy guns. Orbital platforms once loyal to the Astra Coalition fractured in fire, their sleek stone-white halls rupturing into glowing embers that showered down upon wind-whipped dooms. Beneath the copper sky, Matriarch Rhea Kylias watched through a reinforced viewport as the horizon blossomed in roaring blossoms of plasma. "Report!" She barked to her chief tactical officer, Lieutenant Sarek, cloaked in the cobalt robes. Of her lineage, Rhea's voice carried the brittle promise of vengeance. Sarek's goggles reflected the spiraling ruins, his tentacled head swaying with each tremor. "They've cracked our outer defense grid," he said, voice low. Dreadnought Judgment's Edge emerged from the dead space corridor. "They disabled our comm before we could scramble reinforcements." Rhea's jaw set like desert shale. "Then we light the beacons." Below, hidden convoys of coalition soldiers scuttled through abandoned canyon outposts to activate ancient relay towers' antiquated technology she had once argued to decommission. Now, under the pressure of human firepower, those rusted relics were the world's last hope. Across Arcadios, the night bloomed with signal lasers, flaring in patterns that spelled a single word: resistance. Meanwhile, 16 light-years away, at the fringe mining colony of Viridian's Rest, the uprising spread like wildfire. Workers of half a dozen species crystalline miners from Syrinth, amphibious engineers from Pangaea, and even a handful of coalition soldiers whose consciences could bear no more stormed the resource towers. They sabotaged power couplings and cut safety lines, tilting massive drills into the red sands. In the control room, Alex Corvus, a former coalition logistics officer turned rebel, directed the chaos through hacked holofeeds. "All stations green," Corvus whispered into her wristcom. "Metallurgists are with us. Once we take the bridge, we hold it." A squad of human shock troops, clad in black and silver armor, moved in beside her, breaching the central elevator shaft with crystalline charges. Their leader, Lieutenant Mar Chung, nodded once at Corvus. "We reclaim." "The orbital's next," she said. Her voice was steel beneath a calm surface, an echo of Captain Mia's resolve. High above Viridian's Rest, a small flotilla of coalition fighters scrambled to intercept. Pulsing energy beams lanced out, but the human ship slipped past in Jittery bursts, their cloaking fields flickering. Within moments, the mining colony's orbital defense satellites fell silent, drifting as dead-eyes in the violet night. Back on Arcadios, the matriarch's aides brought her a hollow transmission. From Earth's sister colony, New Terra. The image wavered but resolved into fields of scorched grain and shattered domes. Even there, where human settlers had thrived for decades, ragged bands of coalition militia now raided villages on horseback, rounding up citizens for re-education. Ria's eyes flared. So they attack wherever humans and their sympathizers seek. Refuge. Lieutenant Sarik's tentacles tightened around the console. They consider humanity the contagion. By striking at us, they believe they can starve the threat. Ria turned away from the window, the weight of her ancestors' crowns heavy on her shoulders. Then, we will show them that contagion can still heal a broken galaxy. On board the human flagship Prometheus Rising, Captain Arumia paced the bridge. The vessel's warped steel hull groaned under the strain of repeated jump lanes. Around her, holographic star charts flickered, tracking every coalition fleet and rebel cell. "We've ignited the first sparks of liberation," she announced to her senior officers. At her side stood Commander Elias Nari, a former coalition intelligence chief who had defected when his homeworld fell. His gaunt features bore the lines of countless interrogations and betrayals. But the Council will strike back hard. We need a second front, something that draws their main fleet away from the home systems. Arun traced a finger over a distant sector. The asteroid belt of Corval. It's largely uninhabited, but they stored their third fleet supply cache. There, if we draw it out, make them scramble to defend an empty corridor, they'll overextend. Lieutenant May Solari, the ship's tactical prodigy, leaned forward. We'll need kinetic missile swarms and electronic decoys to bait them, and clearance to recruit more coalition defectors. Arun met Solari's gaze and offered a thin smile. Granted. Prepare the orders, and send my personal message to every liberated world. We will not stop until every cage is open and every voice is free. Within hours, the spark became an inferno. Coalition border worlds that had never before questioned the Council's benevolence declared independence. Armies of exiled scholars and persecuted alien refugees formed the backbone of a ragged but determined human-allied force. Resistance cells coordinated through clandestine comm networks, sending encrypted maps of quarantine fields to human dreadnoughts poised at the edge of dead space lanes. In the Council chambers on Lyra Prime, President Ellerin Voss watched the unfolding insurrection with horror. As reports streamed in world after world slipping away, she realized the true cost of dismissing humanity's warnings. She raised a trembling hand to silence her advisors. They offered peace, and we chose our prisons. A single tear glinted on her cheek. Mobilize the ancestral fleet. We launch Operation Iron Veil at dawn. But even as the coalitions might began to turn toward retaliation, the galaxy's balance had already shifted irrevocably. In every system, the embers of rebellion glowed with cold resolve. The human ultimatum had become a call to arms and a promise that through fire and sacrifice, true freedom would be forged. The charred remains of once proud citadels lay scattered across the galaxy like broken promises. On New Terra's ash-brown plains, survivors, humans, coalition defectors, and freed alien prisoners gathered around makeshift camps lit by scavenged lanterns. The air was heavy with the scent of burnt sky and tentative hope. At the heart of the largest encampment stood Captain Arun Mia, her uniform singed at the edges, speaking softly to children whose bright eyes betrayed both fear and curiosity. "We have seen what tyranny looks like," she said, voice steady over the crackle of the fire, "and we have felt its weight. But tonight, we are not prisoners of fear. We are architects of tomorrow. A chorus of murmurs rose among the assembled. Farmers from Cerelia, exiled scholars from Pangaea, engineers from Arcadios. Each had lost everything, yet here they stood. Beside Arun, Commander Elias Neari unrolled star charts marked with the coordinates of damaged coalition worlds, now ripe for rebuilding. We begin with 3, he announced. Arcadios, Viridian's Rest, and Lyra Prime itself. Each a symbol. The desert that burned, the mines we liberated, and the council's seat of power. On Arcadios, matriarch Rhea Kylios surveyed the skeletal towers of her once fortified capital. She recalled the roar of plasma blossoms and the tremor of quake beams. Now, under the gentle glow of twin suns, she watched reconstruction crews erecting refugee shelters among the dunes. With her ceremonial robes swapped for repair overalls, Rhea strapped a hydroponic module onto a transport sled. A young technician, Asirinth Meyer, who had earned his freedom, smiled at her. Your people taught me to build, not just to fight. Rhea nodded, eyes misting. Build and remember. Let every spire and every root remind us that unity is stronger than fear. As she guided the module toward a new grove, the wind carried the distant hum of coalition starships, arriving not to conquer, but to offer aid. Meanwhile, in the silent void above Lyra Prime, the battered hulls of human dreadnoughts and coalition cruisers drifted in uneasy formation. President Ellerin Voss stood on the bridge of the Aurora's Wane, flanked by her advisors and by Elias Neari, who had come as both envoy and witness to change. The president's fingers traced the name etched into her console. The very ship that, once enforced quarantine, now repurposed to ferry supplies and medical teams. Elias offered her a datapad. These are the terms of the new coalition accord, he said. Full dismantling of the containment fields, universal citizenship rights, and a shared council where every species, human or alien, holds equal voice. Ellerin's silver hair caught the soft starlight as she studied the document. For centuries, her people had prized order above all. Now she realized such order, without justice, was a brittle myth. With a resolute nod, she signed. Let the accords be broadcast on every channel. Let history remember this moment. Back on New Terra, as dawn broke over the scarred horizon, Arumia and Rhea Kylios stood side by side beneath a banner woven from coalition silks and human fibers. Around them, survivors from 100 worlds raised their voices in a chorus that carried across the plains. The first seedlings of a new garden planted in the ashes of war unfurled green leaves toward the light. Arun turned to Rhea. We came seeking justice, but found something more precious, forgiveness. Rhea placed a hand on Arun's forearm. And we learned that freedom, once won, must be guarded with compassion. Above them, the twin suns of New Terra climbed higher, bathing the assembly in golden light. In that moment, the galaxy exhaled, shedding its scars and embracing the fragile bloom of peace. From the flames of war, a phoenix had risen, and its wings would carry all worlds toward a future born of unity, not fear. The new dawn over New Terra brought more than sunlight. It heralded the first council of free worlds in history. Beneath a vast transparent dome, delegates from dozens of species assembled around a circular dais carved from asteroid steel. Captain Arumia and President Ellerin Voss took their seats side by side, flanked by matriarch Rhea Kylios and representatives of the Elysian descendants who had quietly emerged from the refugee fleets. Arcaius, hush settled as Arun rose. We stand at the threshold of a shared destiny, she began. Her voice carried the quiet authority born of hardship. In the fires of war, we forged solidarity. Now, in the light of peace, we must build institutions capable of holding the galaxy together without iron fist or hidden chains. She gestured toward a holomap hovering above the center of the dais. Constellations of star systems blinked in hopeful green. Former coalition territories newly free, human-founded colonies on the mend, and neutral zones designated for cultural exchange. These are our first steps, Arun said. Trade routes. Reopened on Corval. Ecological restoration programs on Arcadios. Educational scholarships for every child born under our flag, no matter the color of their skin, the shape of their tentacles, or the number of their moons. From the back of the chamber, a young envoy from the Orion nomad stood. She wore ceremonial tattoos that glowed faintly in the dome's artificial sky. Peace demands vigilance, she warned. Old resentments die hard. Some will still whisper that humans use fear to seize power. Her words rippled through the delegates. President Voss answered, voice steady. Then let our actions speak louder than any echo of doubt. She tapped a control, and the holomap shifted to display a new program. Cooperative World Ship Construction. A fleet of Arc ships to carry refugees fleeing ecological collapse on vulnerable planets. We will not repeat the mistakes of isolation. By sharing technology and resources, we bind our fates together. Outside the dome, across the plaza of New Terra's capital, citizens from every world mingled beneath banners of interwoven flags. Children chased luminescent drones that spelled out unity in midair. Music human chorales harmonizing with Pangarian. Water instruments and the rhythmic drumming of Syrinth crystal spheres rose in jubilant celebration. Late that evening, as the delegates retired to chambers of discussion, Arun found Rio walking among the memorial gardens planted in the ashes of the old refugee camp. Silvery blossoms unfurled under the twin moons, each petal inscribed with the name of a world that had suffered under quarantine. Ria touched a bloom and whispered, "We remember so we do not repeat." Arun placed a hand over hers. "Our pledge goes beyond memory. We are the guardians of tomorrow, and tomorrow must never again be forged in fire." High above, the stars watched as the fledgling council prepared its first decree to honor the fallen by ensuring that no species, no matter how small or distant, would ever again be silenced. And in that promise, the galaxy found its true rebirth.